You are listening to the Beyond the High Road podcast with Shelby Milford, episode number 50. Stay tuned. Welcome to Beyond the High Road. Hey guys, I recorded this on 2 different days for a couple of reasons. One, because I ran out of time, but 2, because one of my members had posed this question and requested that I do an episode on this. And I was like, yes, I'm surprised I haven't even done it yet. That's a question I get all the time. Am I doing enough? Have I done enough? Should I be doing more? And when I went to answer it for you guys yesterday, I found myself sort of talking in circles. I came to the conclusion that the reason why this was happening is because this is so subjective. It really depends on what the thought or the idea is behind this question. I'm thinking that many of you, if you're asking that question, am I doing enough, really kind of boils down to why isn't anything I'm doing working? Or what can I do in order to get the response or result that I want? That's usually what is behind that. And in that case, then I think, as you know, there's going to be very inconsistent results with trying to elicit a specific response out of anybody, but especially out of somebody who is being actively alienated and somebody with a disordered personality like the alienator. So that's that. I just want to make that known from the beginning that there is not really a secret recipe. There are tactics, there are strategies, there are angles that you can take in order to possibly get a better response than what you have gotten. But that is something that is so personalized that unless you were sitting in front of me and you and I together, if you were to explain maybe your history with your kiddo and what your relationship was like, what your dynamic with your ex was, and then what it is now and what has happened up till now, what you have been doing, all of that. Then together, you and I can come up with a much better idea of what your strategy is going forward. But in the general sense, for me to answer this question, I think what is the most important is for you to develop a few things. Because as alienated parents, we outsource all of our answers. We don't trust ourselves. And so we want somebody else to confirm that what we're doing is either enough or maybe somebody will be able to give us the magic answer, like the missing puzzle piece. We Google the same thing a million times over in different ways. My kid won't talk to me. How to get kid to talk to you. How to reconcile with an alienated child. You know, all of the same questions that tend to come up with ambiguous answers, right? Because of the complexity of this dynamic. But when you learn to look inside for your answers, because they're always there, when you learn how to pay attention to your body and trust what your brain has to offer back to you, then you will find much more satisfaction in the answers that you come up with. Because in the end, if you can't access those answers right now because you've sort of blocked yourself from you, which is very common. This is what, I was so blocked for so long that I really, truly I wasn't able to hear and then trust that the answer that actually was within me was the right answer. I'm using air quotes right now, was the right answer or the answer that was going to serve me the best, right? So when I developed these skills, I have been so much more satisfied with the result as opposed to continuing to search outside of me for it. So having your own back is a skill that is comprised of these other skills that I'm going to share with you today. But having your own back is essential because when you make the decision, this is another thing that I think is going on if you're asking yourself this question, am I doing enough? Is that you're looking for reassurance, right? Makes sense. This is a natural human tendency. But when you have your own back and you know how to do that on a consistent basis and it becomes like your standard, then you don't care so much to have reassurance. It's kind of extra because you already know that the answers that you have are valid and true for you and couldn't possibly be so true for everybody else. So I'm going to give you all of the skills that I think that you need and like just do brief overviews on them. I recorded that part yesterday. And then I'll come back on and give you my thoughts about doing enough. Like I'll give you a more direct answer to it. But like I said, even my direct answer isn't really, if you're in the place where you don't have these three components, these three skills, it's not going to be suffice for you. Do you know what I'm saying? Until you do this work. Okay. So that's how it's going to go today. Stay tuned for the meat of the episode, and I'll be back around in a little bit. If you guys are watching this, just you'll see that I look a little different today. It's because I got a wild hair over this last weekend and just decided to chop it. Not only the length, which is way too short, I also decided that I needed to cut bangs. I don't know why. Well, I do. I was just sick of how it was hanging. I cut it and I kept thinking, I was like, you do things periodically throughout your life. And women, my moms out there, you probably share this with me. You think that you're going to look good with bangs or, vice versa without them if you've always been a bang person. And then you go and you do the opposite and you're like, oh, why did I do that? Well, this is what happened with me. And I even knew, like, I've tried this several times within adulthood where I'm like, yeah, they never work for me. And I'm always regret the decision afterwards. But this time I was like, well, maybe I didn't like bangs because I didn't commit enough last time. So I went and committed and did like bangs, like actual bangs where they are straight down. And I started back in the crown of the head and they're bangs. And anyway, needless to say, hearing my tone, I don't love them. I think once they grow out, once my hair grows out another inch, then I think everything will be fine. But anyway, that's what I did this weekend. Cut myself some bangs. Always a good idea. So we'll just pretend like these are not here for me and my bangs. I was really excited when one of my members brought it up to me a couple weeks ago, asking that I talk on this. I was like, oh my gosh, why haven't I done this yet? This is such a common question that I know a lot of you have on a very regular basis, right? Those of you that are wondering, like, am I doing enough? Should I be doing more? How can I do more? All those kinds of questions. And so I wrote down what I think is needed in order for a person to really fully know and trust that they are doing enough with regard to their situation of alienation and with their children. And then when I sat down to talk with you guys about this, I found myself talking in circles because it's actually such a broad question. Not only because, each one of you is going to have a different story. There's different nuances in your history with the ex and what's going on now. There are so many possible answers for this. It's too broad. There's too many different dynamics within the dynamic of alienation in order for me to possibly address this. So I found myself like running into my own words, even coming up with a way to get it all in one episode, preferably, in a digestible anyway, size episode. So I'm going to go about this differently now. I think just know that like, if I were talking with you personally, then it would be much easier to come up with a game plan for you and to come up with an answer to the question, are you doing enough, right? You and I could go in, you could give me the history of what's been going on, your relationship before alienation, and then of course after, as it sits right now. And you and I could come up with all of the answers, game plan moving forward, and the work that you needed to do in order to feel confident in what we've decided on, right, for you. That easy as pie for me. For you, it'd be some work, but still work that would be well worth it, right? But I'm not doing that. Here I am sharing with you a very more general answer. So here's what I think is needed. I think in order to come to any answer to any question you ask yourself and have resolve to feel at peace with that answer, you must trust yourself. You must trust in your abilities, have self-confidence. And you must have a sense of worthiness, knowing that you are enough just as you are. And just because the alienator says, and maybe even your children say that you aren't worthy of having a relationship with, that doesn't mean that you're not worthy of having a relationship with. It means that at this point, the alienator doesn't believe that. And that is on the person that's alienating your children from you. So it doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean that you are not worthy. It means that they don't value you, okay? And that says everything about what their preferences are. Not to mention that we're likely dealing with a disordered personality. So I think that it is helpful to keep into consideration that they don't value their own selves, let alone other people. And it's not to encourage you to come from a place of judgment when it comes to them, not because of them, not because we're trying to be kind to them, but because kindness affects how you feel inside. And when we shift the attention over to them, then you end up not feeling so good about you inside. And so that's why I really want to direct our attention towards us and the work that we can do. Okay. But I do think it is helpful to point out that we're not dealing necessarily with the poster child for self-worth, right? And knowing what constitutes worthiness. Having said that, what constitutes worthiness is the fact that you are living and breathing. Every single one of us is 100% worthy as we sit. Worthy since the day that you were brought into this world. Let's say you're going property shopping, okay? Let's say you came into some money or you worked hard in your life and you had some money to spend on a property and you found this one place that was beachfront, like 2 acres, beachfront property, the most crystal blue, amazing water. It had the perfect trees. It was the perfect plot of land for you to build your custom forever dream home on. And it was like, maybe it had some natural barrier islands that were off the coast a little bit, so as to kind of protect it from any hurricanes coming in. So you didn't have to worry about the house being blown away at some point. Maybe because of the protected waters, like dolphins in your backyard on the daily and sea turtles. And, this property is just off the chain phenomenal, right? It is worth the cost if you like the beach. But let's say you don't like the beach. Maybe you are a mountains person. Maybe you hate the sand. You don't like salt water. Maybe you're scared of sharks. If that's you, then you are not going to actually appreciate the value of this property on the beach. For you, it's not worth the price tag. It doesn't make sense to you. Because you don't want to buy it, they don't go, oh, well, this person didn't like it, so let's lower the price. No, they just know that you weren't the right buyer for this beautiful property. But the price tag remains the same. You not liking the property says nothing about the property itself. It's still on a beach, still got the crystal blue water, barrier islands, dolphins in the backyard, and a flat already leveled out for a beautiful home to go on it. All of that remains the same. You just don't value it. Apply this to your own self when the alienator has said that you're not a good mom or dad, that you're a drug addict, you are not present, not safe, all of these things that they say, right? Those judgments, those opinions that the alienator or whoever else has, maybe even your children, they say nothing about you and who you are and what your worth is. Nothing depreciates your value. Just because somebody else thinks or says, or just because I think somebody else is thinking or saying something about me, that's like apples and oranges. What somebody else thinks about me and me are 2 entirely different things. They don't even relate, right? Just like with a movie, if I like a movie and you don't like a movie, it says nothing about the movie itself. The movie is the movie, separate entity. And then there's our individual thoughts about that movie. It doesn't make the movie less or more or anything. The movie just is. It's the same thing with us. Your worthiness is your worthiness no matter what. Somebody's opinion, that is truly all it is sentences in their mind about you. So if this is something that you're working on, like you can tell that you are basing your worth on external things or other people's opinions of you are really important to you at the moment, then I think it's really helpful to do your own affirmations. Like, daily self-love practices, especially the ones that are seemingly trivial. If you're driving in your car right now, look up the rearview mirror, wink at yourself. Hey, gorgeous. Little things like this are the best way that I have found to raise my own esteem, bring the fun loving back into your world again. I know it seems cheesy and silly, but I'm telling you, you won't regret doing it. You start winking at yourself in the mirror 1 to 3 times a day, and some dance parties in the house with some fun music on. This is so important. Okay. So the second thing you need to have is, of course, self-trust. You have to trust in your own ability to make a decision and it be the quote unquote right one or the one that you want to stick with. Self-trust, I think, goes hand in hand with self-discipline. Discipline to me is deciding on a plan ahead of time, no matter whatever it is, and sticking to it. Following through on your own commitments to yourself is something that I think is so fucking underrated. We as a society, I think in general, are conditioned to follow through on commitments we make to other people, right? Following through on commitments to our own self comes last. And then add in alienation and the self-worth issues. And then we really don't follow through. We always come last because we're too busy people pleasing or too busy trying to get out of our own heads, right? And so we don't follow through in all the things that pertain to us. We think we place less importance on that. Earning your own trust is so important for you. If you treated your friends like you likely treat yourself when it comes to not following through on your own commitments. Now I'm generalizing here and I'm supposing here, but if my hunch is right, I would assume that your friends, if you treated them the way that you treat yourself, would not be your friends anymore. Like if you didn't show up for an engagement, let's say you had lunch planned with a friend. If you just decided not to show up and then didn't call, didn't text, they asked you why you didn't show up. And you were like, I don't know, I just didn't feel like it. Or I don't know, I had something better to do with somebody else. I had this other thing, so I just was too tired. That friend would be pissed at you, right? But we do it with ourselves all the time. Why is that any different? And you say, oh, because it's them. You want to be kind. You want to be courteous to them. But why don't you want to do that to yourself? Because each time you don't follow through on what you say you're going to follow through on with yourself, it's like another notch in your subconscious. It's like, up there, I didn't follow through on that again. So next time, we're not going to trust ourselves enough to follow through. Do you ever make a commitment to yourself to work out for the first of the year? And in the back of your mind is going, you're never going to follow through with that. You're going to stop at day 5, And then you do. You end up stopping either before that or you never start because you've already proven to yourself that you don't follow through. So you have to overcome these objections in your mind on a continual basis. Keep overcoming them. Keep proving to yourself that you are capable of having your own back and being there for yourself and following through on your own commitments with yourself. When you do this, watch. After you do it twice and then 3 times and then 4 times, even that small amount of times, you'll notice that you start to feel more confident in your own ability to do any task. But when you start to earn that trust back with yourself, then your subconscious will be like, oh yeah, actually, we've been coming through for our own selves lately. So maybe we can trust what's here to tell us whether we're doing enough or not. But when we're not following through on our own commitments to ourselves, our subconscious goes, why are we going to listen to what you have to say? You don't follow through on anything. Does this make sense? So you have to earn your own trust back because as you guys have heard me say before, probably above 90% of the time, your subconscious is the one driving the bus. It's the one moving you throughout all of your life. When you get in the car, when you brush your teeth in the morning, your body just pushes a play button, teeth brushing time, and it does it. You could be thinking a million other things. You probably don't even remember whether you brushed your teeth a lot of the times or not, right? You could drive to work and not even really remember the drive because your subconscious has that done for you. Your automatic thinking, your automatic actions, right? It has that stuff memorized. It's the same when we're talking about bigger things like whether we're doing enough for our children or not. Okay. Throw in all of the chatter around second guessing our own abilities because we're paying mind to what other people have said about our abilities. That is why I'm talking right now so much about your self-worth, self-confidence, self-trust, self-discipline. Okay. Hopefully now it's coming together because I'm sure you were probably like, well, what do these things have to do with whether I'm doing enough? They have everything to do with you coming up with your own answer about whether you're doing enough or not. Okay. Once you have that trust with yourself and you know that you are disciplined, that you will follow through on your commitments to yourself, your brain will go, okay, so now whenever we do come up with an answer, we can trust that answer and don't need to go outsource answers from all the other people. Google searching whether you're doing enough and what other people are doing and checking on Reddit and asking on Facebook and surveying here just to go find the answers that you're not going to believe anyway. You know what I'm saying? You're going out all over the place just to try to find the answer that's really, truly the only answer you're really going to be satisfied with is the one that you come up with, that you find resolve in. So have to apply all of these things. And the last thing that you need is self-confidence, believing in your ability. Maybe you don't believe in your ability to do something, a specific thing yet. Like for me, I don't know how to rappel off of a mountain. I have not the first clue how to be a repeller or go spelunky. I've got mountains in my head ever since the beach mountain thing. But I do believe in my capability to learn. Given an instructor that has all their information and they know how to do it, I am confident in my ability to learn how to get the thing done, to go spelunking, to skydive, to rappel off of a mountain. Fully confident in my ability, my capability. You don't have to have experience in something to have confidence in yourself. You have confidence in yourself and your capability to tackle, to accomplish anything that you set your mind to. And that's, again, set your mind to, that's where self-discipline and self-trust come in. Okay, so once you have worked on these 4 components, self-trust, self-confidence, discipline, that's 3, and your self-worth, then you're going to have insight and really value your own insight in order to come up with an answer that is suffice for you. Okay, so now that that is all explained and you've got some things that you can work on, this is assuming that you are wanting to take care of your mental health and your healing surrounding your situation of alienation. Okay, so if you are asking this question because you truly are not sure if you are doing enough, then it could be worth it for you to write down a list on either side of things you are doing, things you're not doing. Here's what I think would be very helpful. I was going to base the whole episode on this next exercise, but then I thought by doing this that I would create a sense of urgency in you. And unless you got the other skills down pat, I didn't want to create this rushed feeling in you. But I think that with all of what I've said in mind, I like to think about, if you had 1 year left to live, what would you care more about? What would you care less about? What would you do more of? What would you do less? Okay, 4 questions. And the 5th question, there's a 5th question to that, but I think that I will save that for another time after you've already answered these questions. So years left to live, okay? Please this is just for mindset purposes, okay? So don't take me literal, but a year left to live. What would you care more about? What would you care less about? Question 2. Question 3 is, what would you do more of? Question 4 is, what would you do less of? Okay. And so answer those questions. And then maybe next week, if I fit it in, then I can give you the last question to that. But anyway, that will sort of give you a better idea of where you are and whether you should be doing more with regard to your situation, your custody case. Okay. But I would place money on the fact that if you're asking yourself the question, it is your brain's way of torturing you, that you are sort of trying to drag yourself through, by the hair through the mud in order to shame yourself, basically. And it's coming from a place of fear because you're not getting the response or the reaction that you would otherwise desire, right? Like you want your kids to be responding to your texts and calling, and you want them to send you an email and tell you how they see the light and that everything is going to be good from here on out, right? And if that is the case, then do all these exercises. But if you truly, truly do want to know, ask those 4 questions of yourself. I mean, you can ask those 4 questions of yourself anyway, right? So anyway, hopefully this comes out all right. I was all over the board because it is such a broad topic that honestly, I could take each one of these last questions that I just asked you and made separate episodes for each one of those 4 skills for yourself. Anyway, so hopefully it comes out okay and you guys are able to understand it. If not, there's always next week. Anyway, so y'all have a wonderful week and I will see you next week. All right. Take care, guys. Oh, don't forget to rate and review and come on and join the membership if you haven't already. You're missing out. Thanks so much for listening today, guys. I'm honored that you chose to share your time with me. If you like what you've been hearing and you want more, come join me in the new monthly membership, where we take the concepts that you hear about here and using a logical framework, you learn to apply them to your specific situations, upgrading your thoughts and your life, even while experiencing the grief of alienation. For more information, go to beyondthehighroad.com. See you soon.